So, hello everyone. Thanks for joining me on another Discord meetup. This has been a while coming. It was delayed in part because I've been super busy, but in part because of version 3. This meetup will be entirely focused on all the changes and things for version 3 so people have reference. Starting off, I want to say that let's see. Currently, there is a pre-order open for units that will be shipping starting in July, and the pre-order should be up for a while. I don't foresee it selling out soon. And there was a delay in that too because I wanted to make some changes, like a Mark II or something like that. I was thinking about it last year, but with the shortage and everything, I couldn't get parts. So, yeah, but probably something like that in maybe 2 years' time, it looks like at this point. But I'm actively working on it, so there's that. Anyway, so what we see here on my screen is version 3. And as you can see just from the project screen, a lot has changed if you're familiar with M8. For starters, I added a groove and scale to the project screen. And that sets the default groove and the default scale for the song. In previous versions, groove 0 was always the default groove, and scale 0 was always the default scale. Putting it in here allows you to change whatever the default is at any given point in time. And it kind of just pretties up the project page a little bit. I also moved, you can see there's no output volume, speaker volume. That has been moved to the mixer screen at the very top. That output volume will change the speaker volume if you have no input connected. They are still two separate volumes. It just changes depending. Yeah. Other things of note is you can see this pretty highlighted text going on here. It's like that across the entire unit. You can see the rows there changing highlight, as well as the instrument screen and all that. Good stuff. The other things that have changed for anything that has a name field, there's this new random button, and it'll just randomly create a name for you. That's including the instrument screen for the name, or the theme, the scale name if you wanted to randomize that. I have no idea why you would, but it's there, and it's pretty comical. Space Butter. Spacey Butter? Yeah, that's a pretty good name. I got a name for this song now. Another thing that has changed would be song preview. So if you go to the project load while nothing's playing, you could actually preview the songs. So just by hitting the play button on the highlighted name. Yeah, so that's pretty convenient. Let me switch views here real quick. There we go. My new fancy key log at the bottom here. I should have probably switched that sooner. So let's see. Another thing that has changed is the mute and solo icons that would appear on the right side in the info area are now kind of shoved out a bit to make room for that little flashing dot there that you see, which is just a trigger indicator to tell you when the sound is actually triggering. Yeah. So a bunch of UI fixes across the board. On the mixer screen, I have this background highlight color so you kind of know where the top edge of the VU meter is at, as well as these new kind of white lines that tell you the peak over a given period of time, so it's a little bit easier to visually match volumes. You can see that because of the output volume that was added to the top, I did that so that way it's accessible anywhere without having to go all the way back to the project screen to change the output volume. As well, a lot of new users thought that the song mix volume was the output level. It's a very common mistake, and I thought of it as more of a UI issue that I did. So my hope is that this makes a little bit more sense for somebody coming in new to the M8. So down here at the bottom right, you can see this is where the song mix level used to be and the limiter setting, as well as the DJ filter. Now, if you're doing live performance and you really need a quick access to get to the DJ filter, you could just hold down left and the key repeat will stop at the DJ filter. So that way you don't have to kind of chase it down. As well, there's a new thing called type, and as the DJ filter type. In previous versions, there was only one type, and it was basically a low pass, high pass, which means lower than halfway point on the DJ filter cutoff was a low pass filter, and above halfway point would be a high pass filter. Now there is a low pass, high pass, low pass, band pass, and band pass, high pass. Personally, I really like band pass or band stop. Sorry, not band pass. I like band stop as like an effect. I do it a lot on live sets, and I was confused on why I didn't add it initially, but now it's there. So you could hear that here. So it kind of has like a phaser effect, essentially. So let's see, I'm flying through this list of things that have changed. DJ filter modes, delay. So another thing that's changed for 3.0 is if you changed tempo severely while the ping pong delay was activated, you would hear lots of pops and clicks as it kind of shortened or greater length the delay based on the tempo. And now it does an interpolation, so it's much smoother to do drastic tempo changes, which is super useful, especially if you do the queued song load where you queue up a song after another and it has a different delay time. That might have caused a pop before as the delay time shifted with the new song tempo. The scope at the top has been improved, especially for high-pitched notes. That big, pretty waveform there at the top, which is nice. Scales and themes now support custom save folders, which basically means before, if I went to edit a theme and I wanted to save this, before it would just hit save and it would save it to the /themes folder, but now you could, choose wherever you want to put it on the SD card. The same is true for doing scales. It makes it a lot easier if you have a lot of custom stuff. All right, so that's all the kind of basic highlights of 3.0. But there's tons of other stuff that's pretty important. The very first thing is, let me just start a new instrument here. There we go. Maybe not wave synth. It's so loud. So the very first thing is the envelope. The envelopes have changed completely in M8. Previous versions, it was 2 HD envelopes and 2 LFOs. And now you could see that you could change it. So you could have 4 LFOs if you want, or 4 HDs if you want, but I also added various types. So there's type 1, which is an ADSR traditional envelope. It works really well with external Midi if you're using M8 as a sound module. It gives you more of that traditional release period that you didn't have access to before. And because the ADSR has a release stage, M8 now has the ability to insert node offs, which sounds ridiculous, it being version 3 and we finally have node offs, but trust me when I say this, you didn't really need it before. we had this thing called the kill command, and everything just worked fine without it. But now if you hit the clear shortcut, which is Op plus Edit, on any blank note column, it'll insert an off there. You see, and that will if the instrument has ADSR and volume, and you want to, you know, you kind of see it there. Let me change this a little bit. And you want to trigger that release stage, you need to have it hit it off. Yeah. As well, there's a new off effect command, which is the same thing as kill, only instead it sends that note off message. And it has an offset, so you could specify the number of ticks to do the note off. So another type of envelope we have is a drum envelope. Drum envelope is kind of hard to explain, but it's very much like how a compressor works in terms of its shape. I guess it'll be easiest just to show you what it looks like using this fancy visuals I have here. Let's see. Let's do FM synth. I'm just going to throw a sine through here so we could see the shape. We're going to do the drum envelope on volume. So we have three parameters: peak, body, and decay. Decay is obviously apparent. It's the length of time it takes to do the fade out. But if I set that to 0, we could see this default peak shape here. Peak is basically controlling two values simultaneously. There's a duck amount and then the time. So if I bring this down a little bit, whoa, too much. There we go. This is probably really hard to see at this short of a time period. But you could kind of see how it starts at a peak and then it ramps down immediately. Basically, you can control the time it takes to do that, as well as how far down it's going to go from that point. You could use the help text to kind of guide you on that. Body is basically like a sustain for the note. For time. The time it takes basically to recover from peak. It basically allows you to do what some would call the fish shape envelope for drums. It's especially useful for stuff like kick drums, which I could demonstrate here. Let's say body 20. There we go. And then I need a pitch envelope. I'll use another drum envelope on pitch, get rid of body, make the peak super fast. You see it's already sounding like a kick, more or less. So yeah, when I made the synth drums pack for M8, which is just a bunch of synth drums, and I was trying to do shapes like this, and it was such a pain in the butt. I kind of got excited about an idea about a special envelope that's catered to more of these quick transient shapes, to be able to do more kind of percussive elements. So that's the drum envelope. The next one is our old LFO. Nothing's really changed. Another one is the Trig envelope, which is, how would I describe this? So Trig is just a normal envelope. It has an attack, hold, and decay, but it is not triggered by the instrument that it's assigned to. Instead, you could have it be triggered from another instrument or another track entirely. And what a lot of people find that useful for is doing kind of a sidechain effect. So I could set the source to like, basically the source number here is the instrument number you want to have as your source that actually triggers it. But above 7F is track numbers, because there's only 7F instruments on M8. So above that, you could say anything on track 2 will trigger this envelope. I wonder if I could demo that with this terrible sound. Yeah. So I'm going to set this up real quick. I'm going to have track 2 basically trigger it. I'm just going to turn down the volume on this instrument so we don't hear it. But you can see whenever I actually preview it, it's triggering that envelope. Another thing we got here, of course, is the nice little dots that tell you what the modulator is doing, whereas before we had no visual indication. So this is really good for doing sidechains as well as all sorts of other wacky things, because you could assign it to other things besides volume. I let the creative use of it up to you. The next modulator type is tracking, and it's basically note or velocity tracking. Similar to most synthesizers out there that have this as a feature. So if I want to have like velocity change the cutoff amount, I could set that up here. And that's it for the modulator. So 4 configurable modulation slots, including all of their accompanying command effects, and these change depending on what type of modulators there are. Another important thing of note is you can copy and paste modulators between instruments or even between the same instrument by using the copy and paste shortcuts Shift plus Opt to copy and then Shift plus Edit to paste. So you could paste across multiple instruments, et cetera, if you want to do the sidechain thing so you don't have to repeat yourself. All right. So next up, we're going to talk about the new instrument types that are in 3.0. The first one is called Hypersynth. And essentially what Hypersynth is 12 saw waves that can be tuned and then a sub-square wave that follows along with it. So it's 13 oscillators total. And what you initially are hit by here is this thing called chord and scale. And essentially scale is just like the song scale. It uses the same scale slots that are up here in the scale screen. But it basically allows you to set a default for that instrument specifically. So if you really want to just have everything fit in a scale, you could do that from here. Because there are these things called, there's this thing called a chord bank. And basically there are 16 different chords you could set up for Hypersynth per instrument, if that makes any sense. So you could kind of design your own chords here, essentially. Yeah, and you have 16 of those. You could change the chord number using a command. There's also special commands for shifting the notes inside the chord. So the first parameter here is called shift, and what that does is it mixes between the first 3 notes and the second 3 notes, allowing you to highlight kind of the first half of the chord or the second half. So at 80, it's kind of center, where both, 3 notes, 3 lower notes are at the same volume as the 3 higher notes. I guess I can make that more apparent by having these be something else too. Swarm is basically, so there's 6 notes that you could control here using the chord, right? But I initially said that there was 12 saw wave oscillators total. And what the swarm does is detunes all of the oscillators together in the typical swarm-like effect, if you know it. It's important to note that swarm at 80 or halfway point is going to be a fifth up and a fifth down, basically. And then at FF, it's basically an octave up and an octave down. There is a width parameter, that's the stereo width. And then we have a sub-os. The sub-oscillator can be either an octave up or sorry, an octave down or 2 octaves down. Above 80 here, it'll mix in 1 octave down. Below 80, it'll mix in 2 octaves down. Yeah. And of course, our typical filter and all the other settings are pretty much the same as other synthesizers in M8. But yeah, so I was looking for something that kind of made like large stereo, pads is what I kind of wanted on M8, and that's basically what Hypersynth is. It could also be like a super unison, sounding swarm synth if you want that. Yeah, it could sound pretty massive. So that is Hypersynth. The other synth engine that's new to M8 is, well, before I get started on that, MIDI out's changed a little bit if you used MIDI out on M8 before. Now it has a mod screen, and the mods can be attached to a CC. You just have to be careful to not assign too many CCs to too many MIDI instruments, or else you're going to basically bog down MIDI, and you'll get kind of a delay that's happening just because you're sending too much data through MIDI. So I leave that up to you to manage yourself properly. I try to do as much as I can behind the scenes to make sure it's being as efficient as possible sending that MIDI data. But, MIDI is a pretty slow protocol, so you don't want to overdo it. But it's there. The external instrument is the other new instrument type in M8. And external is just like MIDI, except for it takes the incoming audio, either USB or line in, and routes it through the filter and the amplifier and limiter and all that stuff that's in the basic M8 synthesizers. Because of that, you're limited to 4 CCs as opposed to, I think, 10 is what MIDI out has. But I think that's a reasonable trade-off for this. And this little song I have here, I have hooked up an external analog synth, and it's using the external instrument. So let's see here. So it's taking line in left and pumping it through all the typical filter and amplifier and stuff like that, as well as sending the MIDI out. And then I have an ADSR on cutoff, and then an ADSR on a CC, on CCA, which is actually the filter cutoff of this synth I'm using. An important note would be sometimes you might experience some clicks depending on the synth or depending if it's USB and if there's latency on USB, et cetera, et cetera. And if you do, I would recommend using the ADSR envelope with a really fast attack time. That will normally get rid of those clicks for you. This synth happens to sound great without any of that. So. Now I'm blasting through these features right now. So with external instrument, the problem is you can't really render it because it's using incoming audio. And if you're used to stuff like Ableton, when you go to render, it'll, wait a while. It'll have a timeout period for the synth to quiet down, and then it'll basically record it for you. In M8, it's nothing that fancy. Instead, what I did was if you head to the sampler screen, so I'm just gonna, let's see, go over to a sample. I'm just gonna start a new sample. How about that? Ooh. Go to the record screen. Over here at the source, you would change this to whatever track number that external instrument is on. And then you would have the song kind of, this parameter here allows you to play the song back, and it's the song row. You can see there at the bottom, the help text is telling you that. So if I wanted to sample that synth, I set it to track 1 because it's playing on track 1, and I set the song position to 0. I don't want an arm in there. So you can see it recorded it. So yeah, that's kind of the work process for dealing with that external instrument type. I primarily saw the external instrument type as more of a live performance feature than a day-to-day kind of thing you would want to do, just because it's kind of sloppy to have to sample stuff back into M8 and deal with that. So I just normalized it. You can see it recorded a bit quiet, and that's because if you have stuff like the filter activated in an M8, it needs a lot more headroom for that filter to not have it clip in the WAV file. So the volume seems a little bit quiet, but that's because we need that extra headroom for all the things you could do to it. So while we're on the sampler screen, though, there's a bunch of new things on this, or at least a couple. The first one is you could copy and paste any of these numerical values between each other. So if I wanted to copy that position and paste it here, I can do that. Or if you have a bunch of slices that you're trying to manage, you could copy one slice and paste it to another. Another thing I added was touchscreen support if you have the M8 hardware. So you hold down Edit, and then you drag your finger to select an area of the waveform. It's not super precise, because it's touchscreen. But what you can do also is if you hold your finger still a little bit, it'll zoom in, so you can kind of dial it in. Yeah, it works all right. The other thing is with slice markers, when you insert slice markers, it automatically organizes them for you. So you don't have the headache of like, oh, this slice marker came before this other one and now it won't trigger correctly or know the end position correctly. It kind of handles all that for you. So if I went in here, I'm going to hold down Edit and use the touchscreen to put a slice marker. And you can see now it's also showing slice markers, whereas before it didn't. So it's convenient. I'm going to put another one here. You can see it's going to automatically sort the slices as I'm animating it here, just to make it easier. So that should make that whole experience a little bit less frustrating. And then, of course, now you could actually visually see the slice markers, which is useful. So let's see what else we got. Oh, phrase and table command sharing. So if you're in a phrase and you like a command, like let's say this add 4 here, you could click edit on it and then also paste it into the table. It doesn't share the copy buffer. Obviously, that could be a good thing. That could also be a bad thing if you're depending on what you're trying to do. But it will just grab the value that you currently edited and plop it in there just to make it convenient. Back and forth between those two screens. Another thing you could do is wherever the cursor's at on the instrument or instrument mod screen, if you hit edit on any of those parameters and then you hit edit on phrase, you see there it automatically added attack, mod to attack. So if I want to change the cutoff somewhere, I could click cutoff here and then paste it over here, and then there's our cutoff parameter. So it does the same thing with table too. So in previous versions that existed, but basically it automatically changed the effect parameter where the cursor was, so you didn't have to hit edit, which kind of could be good and bad. So I have it so just you have to hit edit in order to do that. Yeah, but that's a little bit easier than trying to hunt it down in this weird list. So especially now that we got a lot more commands going on. All right. Hopefully I'm still streaming and everything's okay, because I haven't looked up since I've been doing this. So we have some deep diving to do. The next up, changes for 3.0 all have to do with command effects. And I guess I will go through them in the order I've written them. The first one is called Remix or RMX. And what RMX does is, for every track to the right of where the command is triggered, you could change the playhead 1 to 16, which allows for some really wacky stuff. And I'll play this demo here just so you could see it happening. I have I think I have RMX right here on this, fourth bar. So you'll hear it once the cursor gets down to here. You see that playhead jumping around there at that last loop. RMX was kind of an experimental feature I was playing with in a previous beta, and I never released it. It's definitely good for doing a quick fill. It's kind of crazy, the level of stuff you could do with it. But basically all it does is whatever phrase is currently playing that has the RMX command in it, you can select, you can see right here, whoa. You can see right here when that's this weird unlegible thing is only like this on my viewer and not on the M8. I don't know why it's like that. Maybe it's the background color. Edit theme. No. It doesn't matter. There it goes. Okay, it's fine now. So whatever. You can see it says play 0, which means the position of where you want to place the marker. So it's going to play it on row 0, and then you could kind of mask which tracks you want to have it affect by changing this value. Generally, I kind of just look at the bottom of the screen, and I'm not even looking at the numbers that I'm editing to kind of figure out what I want it to do. But you could do juggling with the position, et cetera, et cetera. The only key thing is you have to return to 0, 0 at some point, or else those tracks will kind of all be all over the place. So you can see on these FD phrases, I have RMX 0, 0. That just kind of forces the playhead to go back across all the other tracks that have just been juggled. Yeah, there's other tricks that RMX can do that I probably should not get into detail here. But RMX can also be a good command to use if you have multiple phrases playing and they happen to be in different time signatures. RMX 0, 0 will basically snap everybody to the exact same position at a given point. So if you're having alignment problems, generally RMX with no value will allow you to snap everything back together. But I just like it for weird remixy things. You could also use RMX with retrig. Well, gets kind of crazy, or there's a bunch of weird stuff you could do with it. But I'm just going to go ahead and move on. The next command is random left. I'll kind of show that here. Let's do a saw. So random, we always had random, but random is basically allows you to randomize the value that happened last. So you would, if you wanted to randomize the pitch or something, you could randomize it like this. But you can't randomize it on the same row that the pitch that you want it to occur. So random left allows you to do that. So if I put the pitch here and then RNL next to it, where did you go? There you are. I can now change the random amount for the pitch right on the same row. That sounds beautiful. The other thing random left can do is if it's on the first column, since there are no commands to the left of this random left command, you could either change the note or the instrument. So it allows you to randomize what instrument would be played. You can see right here at the bottom the help text changed. So you could do basically the current instrument +1, +2, +3, +4, +5, etc., etc., etc. So it allows you to do random instruments or randomize the note a certain amount. Next one would be TBX, which is an aux table. Essentially what this is it's a second table that's playing in the phrase that's not locked to the currently playing instrument. Apparently I lost my stage. Give me 1 second. Share my screen. There we go. I think we're back in business. Are we good? All right, thank you. All right, so sorry about that. The Discord server decided to start the event, even though we were already in the event. So, whichever. TBX is essentially a second table that can play alongside the instruments table, but it's not tied to a specific instrument. What this is useful for, I have absolutely no idea, to be honest with you. But I thought it would be really cool to do it. So let's see here. If I do a new table here, I'm just doing octave shifts for this auxiliary table. I know. It's the worst line ever, but it's okay. So the other thing to note is the instruments table is still playing as well. So you could have multiple tables in that same at the same time. It's not like table X interrupts the original instruments table. So it's in parallel. Another thing you could do is the auxiliary table by default plays at 6 ticks, which is basically it's locked in with the row number of phrase, if that makes sense for you. And if you want to change the default speed of this auxiliary table, if you put a tick command right next to it, it'll assume that you're referring to the table, the auxiliary table, and not the instrument table. Yeah. You could get pretty nuts with auxiliary table. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of use cases for it. I could see myself using it for what I did here, which is basic arpeggios that I could share between tracks. Special things to consider is if you use auxiliary tables, you probably want to not use any of the tables below 80 because those tables are dedicated to the instruments, the instrument number. Also to note, table or TBX00 stops, and you can see there at the bottom it says stop. So you can't even access the first table in M8 using this TBX command. The idea is you use kind of these higher up tables that are currently unused. All right, blasting through these things. The next thing is not a new thing, but it is changed. the rep command. Rep is my favorite command. And if you're not familiar with rep, I've talked about it numerous times in the past, but basically it repeats the last value and keeps adding to it, allowing you to do changes over time and shape the sound over time. So I have here cutoff, and if I start putting some rep on there, the cutoff will just kind of start turning up by itself. Rep is a very powerful command. The thing that's changed is now the precision of rep has changed. And don't worry about your old songs. It gets converted automatically when you load it in. But before, this used to be repeat 1 and repeat 2 and repeat 3. So you could only do a certain speed of repetition. If you wanted to go really slow, it wasn't really capable of doing that. And now it's kind of 4 times slower. So it allows you to do really slow repeats if you want to. You can see the fraction here, 0.25, 0.5, et cetera, et cetera. Another thing that's changed for rep, because it's such a common issue people have, is they'll say that, like, my song plays great up until this point, and then something wacky happens, and it works fine if I play the song from that point, but if I start from the beginning of the song, it doesn't sound right, like something's wrong. And normally the culprit, 9 times out of 10, it's because they have a rep that they didn't stop, because the rep will just keep on repeating a value over and over again. You have to tell it to stop with either a new command or a rep 00. Because that's such a common issue, you could see here where it says effects 1, and then there's 2 little carets. That's telling you that there's a rogue rep that hasn't stopped yet. So if I put a rep 00 here, it'll now not have those arrows anymore. So that's just a helper to show you that there's a rep somewhere up in the song somewhere that hasn't stopped yet. Hopefully that helps y'all chase them bugs. Another command that was added, I guess I could say, was it wasn't implemented before, is in table there is the delay command. Used to not do anything in table, and now it just delays based on ticks, which is useful if you want to kind of pause the table before continuing on something. Just worthy of note here. I think that's everything. I think I just blasted through every single new thing in version 3 because there's a lot of changes if you look at the changelog. The one important thing to note is there is a breaking change. For songs that have previously had volume assigned to an LFO, you need to tweak that song or adjust it to make it sound the same again. If you can even make it sound the same, I'm not sure. But basically, there was a math problem that's been there since the beginning that wasn't pointed out until maybe 4 or 5 months ago. And I decided because this is such a huge update, we might as well bring that change in. But yeah, basically volume assigned to an LFO will have to be manually adjusted. That's pretty much it. If y'all have any questions, I guess the floor is open for them. Somebody asked if I could touch on key tracking, and I sure can. I think I already had this set up just from us goofing off here before we started the stream. Do I have this set up? Yes, I do. I have, on this instrument, I have tracking set to cutoff assigned to velocity with the full scale range. The other thing to note here is if you have it set to pitch, or note, sorry, you can see at the bottom there, it's telling you what's the start and end note. So just pay attention to the bottom help text. But on this instrument, I basically have, I have cutoff assigned to velocity. I'm going to remove that. I'm going to remove that other cutoff so that way we could actually hear it. Yeah. So you can hear it. The harder I hit the note, the more that cutoff is being changed with velocity. Of course, that sounded terrible because I have a scale turned on and I didn't before, so that super high note was annoying. You can also change it to note, so that way it'd be, the low notes are going to be very quiet, and the high notes will be a lot more open on the cutoff. The other thing you could do is you could invert these values if you want to, so that way the upper, everything's backwards. So now the high notes would be quieter than the lower notes as far as the cutoff position. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask them. I will try to keep up. Hey, Mikey, you around? Hold on, I have to turn up your mic. Maybe I don't, actually.
Hello.
Hey. I wasn't keeping up with chat. I don't know if you were, so I don't know if there was any questions that I just totally missed.
Let me take a look.
Oh, so you weren't either. By the way, you're featured on my M8 now.
Yay. So I think someone wanted, I saw someone that was interested in a little more information on RMX. I think they wanted you to kind of go over that again.
Ooh. RMX is a tricky one. But I guess I could try to...
You should show them it scrolling backwards.
No. That's not how we do things. Hold on. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna have RMX constantly playing with this track, and then kind of start messing things up. I'm gonna delete everything that's here and leave the RMX 00. You could see here the playhead is just kind of repeating on this first set, because that RMX is just constantly triggering row 0. All right, let's make this even funnier. Let's see. So we could make it go backwards, I think, in theory, by just adding a bunch of RMXs. I don't know why you would do this. Crazy people. So I'm going to make this F. I'm going to select all, and then I'm going to, what was the shortcut? I thought that was it. RIP. I forgot the shortcut. Or it's not working. Shift edit. There we go. Thank you. It's been a while since I've done the interpolation thing. So shift edit. Yay, there we go. So it interpolated that value. You can see the playhead's now going backwards on all the tracks. Another thing you could do, I mentioned, you could do a retrig, which is super dangerous but hilarious. So let's see here. Let's do that. Yeah. So you kind of go nuts with RMX. Personally, I'm going to find it useful, especially for like live set variations. Being able to quickly kind of rearrange on the fourth measure, you know, a new fill or something, or to come up with a different song idea, different arrangement idea by just controlling that playhead. Yeah, rep RMX, somebody asked. That probably works. It's probably not something you want to use because it's probably just going to sound like a giant mess. I'm pretty sure I didn't lock that out, though. So some people might like that. I personally, it's not my thing. But, you know, have fun. I mean, you could also put rep in an aux table, you know, and then, I don't know. The whole thing starts to make my mind melt a little bit. I'm going to break every song. All right. So any other questions, comments? Hate? Does anybody have any hate? Is there an LFO? Yeah, I mentioned that. There is an LFO on volume. Yeah, it's only a backwards compatibility issue. LFO should act as you would expect. It's a, you know, if you want to do tremolo, etc., it should act as you expect it to. The bug before was when you had different velocities or values in the V column, it would change the LFO shape. Essentially, is the easiest way to describe it. So that's actually not something that was supposed to be there. It was just an error in how the math was calculated or how the LFO was calculated.
You have multiple users asking about TBX plus tick 00. I guess asking how.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that'll work. Sorry. It took me a minute to figure out what we were talking about. Let's see. Sure, why not? So let's see here. TBX. And then, as I said before, if you put a tick on that row there, it'll apply to the TBX. Now TBX will only, that table will only increment. Oh, sorry, I just turned off the table instead of actually using it. So now the increment will only happen when the TBX command is hit. So it doesn't increment when the instrument plays, it increments whenever it passes that TBX command. So I could, like, you know, do something like this, and you'll watch it kind of start moving more now. Oh wait, wrong table. Hold on. And there we go. So we could do cut off and then ran. Just doing a quick example here. In theory, turn on the filter. So that random is being applied on every new note that is triggered. Or, I don't know, maybe if I do this instead. Let's do, and then maybe that would do. Kind of learning this as I go here. You get the idea, though. Basically, the tick 00 normally is a speed for table where it increments whenever the instrument triggers, but for the auxiliary table, it triggers whenever the command is, whenever it hits the command. It just seemed more useful that way. Is a different tick per column on TBX possible? Yeah, it should be. Let's see. Probably not. If you put a tick in here, I think this might overwrite it, but let's try it. So normally you could put a tick at the bottom of a specific effects lane. Oh, well, that seems to work. Well, yeah, so it does work. All right, well, I guess I fixed that. There you go. Questions, comments, concerns? Can you put TBX inside of a TBX? Shut up, Mikey. You can, it just won't do anything fancy. It'll just I think it might be ignored actually. Well, we'll try it, but I'm pretty sure it'll just change out whatever the table was. Let's see. Let's see what happens here. It's gone. So it went to table B0, I think. It did, but yeah, we're missing that boy when it did that. Listen, I advise against doing anything that I didn't design it to do because I was too lazy to put in limits, okay? I'm just kidding. If we have any more questions, feel free to ask them. And if we don't have any more questions, then we'll start to play user bundles. Oh, yeah, that's right. I didn't mention that, but the old envelope was the mod. It was 00. It was an AHD envelope. I don't think it actually said that on M8. I'm not sure. Pretty sure it didn't. But yeah, that's the old envelope is 00.
So by default, on a new instrument, it's still kind of set up like the older firmware.
Exactly.
Envelopes, is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So if I did a new song here and I insert a new instrument, the defaults here are identical to the old version. So if that helps you out. Oh, sorry. I also I killed your mic. I don't know if you stopped talking or not. I currently have Mikey routed through the USB bus on the M8, so when I did a new project, it stopped the USB audio. Yeah, there's a couple really cool effects commands for Hypersynth for adjusting the voice pitch of specific intervals or changing the chord number, and there's combinations thereof that it didn't really show you. I'm going to go into detail on some of that in the manual, hopefully, and the manual should be, I haven't even started it yet, to be honest with you, because I've been so busy with everything else. But I was hoping to get it out within 3 or so weeks. It's going to be a lot of coverage to make those adjustments, obviously, so please be patient with me. But what was I going to show you real quick? Oh, there's some tricks to Hypersynth. So with the Swarm 00, basically all 12 of those saw waves are kind of stuck at whatever phase they're currently playing in. And there's a command that allows you to change the sync position. You could resync all of the oscillators together by using this sync command in Hypersynth. It kind of has a cool sound when they start dephasing from each other. There's another trick with the sync command, and that is values at 80 or above. Invert half of these saw waves so that they cancel each other out, basically allowing you to do some kind of square wavy looking shapes. Yeah, so a lot of the stuff I tried to have it be enable you to do more sound designy type things besides just having chords, essentially. There's probably other tricks in here too. Whoa, there we go. You could remove voices by doing the clear command, edit plus op. So now it's only 2 saw waves playing together. But then you can enable other ones by using the CVO, I think. Yeah, the CVO command, which is kind of tricky, but you could pick which voice you want to add and then put in an offset. So you can kind of try to start sequencing something here. Yeah. Cool stuff to be had. There is too much in this update, and I'm sorry, everybody. I'll try not to do it again. No, but seriously, I probably won't do it again because that was a lot of work. If we have any more questions, or else I'll move on to some user-submitted bundles. Anybody? Inbox asks, when is M8 4.0? And my answer to you is silence. I'm going to start going into bundles unless anybody has any. Yeah, there's tons of things I'd like to add. What is possible, I don't know. And, we'll see. But primarily for me, the main feature that I had on my backlog of things that I wanted to do was the external instrument type. I had that on there since version 1 point something, I think. The Hypersynth thing was something literally just like a month and a half ago or 2 months ago where I'm like, I really want to have big chords and not just use a sample. So that was kind of my answer to that. I think it's almost there, but, All right. I think it's time to play some bundles. And it looks like Mikey's first. because, well, this list, as you know, is kind of randomly ordered. And I don't know why you're first on here, but we'll do it. All right, this is Mikey303 with Strange Koala. I'm hoping that came up in the random name generator. Thanks for the submission, Mikey303. That indeed was a strange koala. Next up is Ineffable Twaddle with Victory Lap. Awesome. Thanks so much for submitting. I like your initials you put here. All right. Next one's by Dar. It is Happy Plant. That was great. That again was Dar with Happy Plant. This is next one's by, is it Niron? With Heartracer. Whoa. That was great. Thanks for submitting the track. Again, I apologize if I mispronounce anybody's names. I'm not really good at English. It's my first language. I'm just bad at it. This next one is Driffers with @W @3 V2. Oh, I'm sorry about that. I did not know. So apparently the song is supposed to be, I'm like, oh, I have to work on this. Apparently the song is below, so I'll just start from there. Next time, please let me know 3 times, so that way, even if you did let me know, I know. Yep. Even better without me having to manually play it. Brilliant sound design. Thank you so much. Where are we? I think we're here, right? Eridon with Dark Orbit. Wow. That was pretty crazy, especially the transitions. Super nice. Thank you again. This next one's by STN. Last 4K or last 04K. Awesome. That was STN with Last 04K. Want to thank everybody again for showing us your bundle songs here. This next song is by Disposable Planet with Daylight Remix. Wow, that was beautiful. I need to figure out how to do more slow melodic stuff like that. That again was Disposable Planet with Daylight Remix. This next song's by Sketcher1 with 230,328 underscore DC. love the textures in that song was really great. That again was Sketcher 1 with 230,328 underscore DC. Next song's by Gleix with Clokdis. Let's hope my volume is good with this. Excellent. That was super great. That again was Gelix with Clokdis, or Clokdis, I guess. Next song's by Dream Gate and Azura Sky. Incredible. That again was Dreamgate with Azure Sky. What was the name of the song? Oh. Ah, well. This next song's by Rhinguther. Sorry. With Swellmer. Fudd. There we go. Oh, did I cut it off early? I am so sorry. Or did I cut it off right in time? I don't know. I apologize again for my pronunciation. I am not really good at any other language, let alone English, so sorry in advance. This next song is by Iencia with 136 Mharo. This is not an easy job, guys, okay? Wow. Lovely vocals. That was just super nice all around. Thanks for sharing. And I'm sorry if I mispronounced anything. It was Iencia with Mharo. This next song is by That Ranjit with Kalimba. Amazing. I want to thank everybody for sharing your bundles with everyone. I think that's the end. I think we went through all of the bundles. We got to see 3.0 and talk about it. And I would like to say we should do another meetup because these are super fun. I hope I have more free time to get these going more frequently. Again, this stream will be posted on YouTube for reference of 3.0 while I work on the manual. And and for those that placed a pre-order, I am working on it and really appreciate it. So thank you all for joining. Have a wonderful day, night, whatever it is in your area. And hopefully we'll do this again in a couple weeks or so. Stay tuned, I guess. Bye, everybody.